What's up, guys? The Snowman here, and today I've got my Western and Southern Open men's draw preview. I also have my women's draw preview out as well, so please check that out when you have time. But this is all about the ATP right now, and it's normally an event that takes place in Cincinnati, but this year it is in New York because of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's part of the bubble setup with the US Open directly afterwards, and it is a Masters 1000 level event, so a lot of prize money and rankings points on the line here, and it's the very first ATP Tour level event since the suspension of the tour back in March. Before we get to the draw, let's talk about who won't be showing up in New York. There are some top male players who either because of injury or COVID and travel concerns will not be competing at the Western and Southern Open or the US Open. You've got the defending US Open champ and world number 2 Rafa Nadal electing not to travel to the States. Also number 4 Roger Federer, he's hurt, had knee surgery this year. You see number 9 Gael Monfils, Fabio Fognini, big names, 3-time Grand Slam champ like Stan Wawrinka. Kyrgios also there, and Kei Nishikori recently testing positive for COVID this week, so he's stuck in Florida. So this Cincy field is not at full strength, but let's check out the draw now. This is section 1, and we'll begin with the world number 1, Novak Djokovic, now 33 years of age, and when we left off over 5 months ago, Joker was in scalding hot form, 18-0 in 2020, so undefeated. He already had wins over every other player in the top 6, and he had titles with Serbia at the ATP Cup, a title in Dubai, as well as his 17th Grand Slam title at the Australian Open, beating Dominic Thiem in a 5-set final there. So Joker, is he going to show any vulnerabilities here in Cincinnati and then at the US Open next week? We also see a couple of the 2 top young Canadian players in this section, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Denis Shapovalov. Shapo, a part of a blockbuster round 1 matchup against Marin Cilic, and they've already met once in 2020. That was back in February in Marseille. The Canadian won in 3 sets, but expect some great shot making, high winner count from both players, as well as probably some high errors. I'm interested to see if all the time off favors a more young, energetic player like Shapovalov or a veteran who's been around the block like Cilic. I want to see what Shapo has worked on during all the off time. Another fun first round matchup, Benoit Paire versus Borna Coric. Paire always electrifying when he's on the court, and Coric, one of the players who participated in Novak Djokovic's controversial exhibition event in Serbia back in June. Coric did test positive for COVID after that event, along with Djokovic and Grigor Dimitrov. You also see at the bottom there the very consistent David Goffin. And it's a less daunting second quarter at the Western and Southern Open. The Russian Daniil Medvedev will be heavily favored to make the semifinals. Who can forget Medvedev's run during the summer of 2019 last year, where he made 6 straight finals, including titles in Cincinnati, Shanghai, and St. Petersburg. Made the final of the US Open, losing to Rafa in 5 sets last season. But he seems, very comfortable on these hard courts in New York. A phenomenal baseline game. We know he hits those powerful flat ground strokes. Medi, one of the players who I believe will dominate the game if the big 3 ever retire. But I've got my eyes on another Russian in this section as well. That's Karen Khachanov. If he gets a favorable draw at the US Open, he's going to be one of my dark horses. Had an incredible match against Rafa at the 2018 US Open, and he's yet to really make a deep run at a Grand Slam, but I feel like Khachanov is right there on the doorstep. Mammoth ground strokes. He puts huge topspin on the ball with that Western grip. This is a good-looking Cincinnati draw for the 11 seed. He'll have to contend perhaps, though, with the 8 seed, Roberto Bautista Agut. I'm hoping for plenty of forehand-to-forehand rallies there. And Taylor Fritz in this section as well. A very high-ceiling player. If he serves out of his mind, he's going to have a chance to challenge Daniil Medvedev. Section number 3, the top 2 seeds in this quarter. 2 exciting young guns in number 4, Stefanos Tsitsipas, and number 6, Matteo Berrettini. For Berrettini, he's only played 2 matches in the year 2020 so far, so how long will it take for his offensive game to start clicking on all cylinders again? For Tsitsipas, on the other hand, he was one of the most informed players before the break occurred. Tsitsipas had a title in Marseille, reached a final in Dubai as well. The 22-year-old Greek player with such a beautiful playing style. I love watching him. The one-hand backhand is just a stroke of beauty, and I'm hoping Tsitsipas worked on his offensive game, though, over the summer, trying to get to the net more, finish points off quicker. I think if he does that, he'll become a true contender then for Grand Slam championships in the years to come. But also in the third quarter, we see some devastating and truly overpowering servers. You've got the 7-footer Riley Opelka. How about the 2-time Grand Slam finalist Kevin Anderson? He's been on the injury comeback. Of course, John Isner. Isner with a true offense versus defense first-round matchup against the Pole Hubert Hurkacz. Hurkacz's game, kind of Andy Murray-esque, great defensive. It is so strenuous to hit through the court against Hurkacz. These two players met in DC last year. Isner won 6-4, 6-4. And one of the candidates to make it out of section number 3, 5'7" Diego Schwartzman, who's got one of the best return games on the tour. He is second in return games percentage won after Rafa in 2019 and 2020. He breaks serve around 32% of the time, so watch out for that. I'd say this quarter, though, has the most different candidates that can make it to the semifinals. Now, section number 4 might be the most fun of all. You've got the number 2 seed Dominic Thiem, who seems like the most likely next new Grand Slam champion. Of course, he gave Novak Djokovic all he could handle back in January in Melbourne in that epic 5-set final. Thiem, I'm expecting big runs for him in Cincinnati and in New York, along with Alexander Zverev, the number 5 seed here. I mean, Zverev has as complete a skill set as any player on the tour right now. The big question mark for the German, though, is how does he get over those double fault yips that have kind of haunted him the last few seasons, especially at the Big Apple last year. Zverev has got to clean up the second serve. 2 awesome first-round showdowns then in this 4th section of the draw. Milos Raonic against Sam Querrey. These two vets nearly carbon copies of each other on the court. Very mild-mannered. They've got blistering serves and thumping forehands. They're going to want to execute swift 1-2 tennis. And also in round 1, Frances Tiafoe against Sir Andy Murray. Murray yet to play a match in 2020, but he showed signs of life at the end of 2019, winning his first title post-hip surgery in Antwerp, Belgium. So can Murray extract enough errors from young Tiafoe? And finally, a shout-out to the Russian Andrei Rublev. He's got the Brit Dan Evans in the first round, and they split a pair of matches already in 2020, but Rublev was on fire before the shutdown. 15-3 with a couple of titles this year. Another hard-hitting Russian like Medvedev and Khachanov. He's got to be liking his chances as well. Overall, though, just great to have the ATP Tour finally back. Of course, not all the big names are going to be at the Western and Southern Open or the US Open in New York these next few weeks, but nice to finally have a draw to preview again. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please subscribe to the Snowman Sports Media for more tennis content. And thanks a lot for watching. See you soon. Cheers.